Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology forecast for Tuesday, October 24th of 2023. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully, you guys had a wonderful Monday. Sorry for kicking you, Leo, just sitting under my desk. And yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the aspects for today. Well, we do have the moon over here in Pisces, and as you can see, it is coming off of a conjunction amplifying energy with Saturn. Now, granted, this happened in the middle of the night. I'll go back and show you when that exactly happened, right? So, you know, from about 5:10 a.m. to about 6:10. So pretty much as you're waking up in the East Coast, if you happen to wake up early, that's when that conjunction happens. That's how the day starts. Uh, Conjuncting at 0 degrees. And as you can see, they are trining over to the sun as well. Now, if you remember over the weekend, I did talk about 0 degrees as well. Once the moon entered into Aquarius, that was when Mercury entered into Scorpio. So you had a 0 0 right there. And then you also had, of course, Saturn at 0 Pisces. So we reached that moment. We reached that moment again, but it's going to be more of a harmonious aspect, mind you. Whereas before you had Saturn in harmony with Mercury and the moon in Aquarius squaring that energy. Today, we really just have the sun and the moon and Saturn all within harmony. Now, of course, the sun feeling a lot better in Scorpio, definitely feeling better than it was in Libra. We're kind of moving out of that energy, mind you. But of course, I will say that these nodes still have a lot of influence, obviously. They are, even though it's within 3 degrees, they are still squaring Pluto, and they have been squaring Pluto for quite a while. Like I said, that's just sort of like that dangling energy kind of in the background. That's kind of like poking us and just like we're wondering when the shoe is going to drop, when something big is going to happen, right? And of course, you have Eris involved here. But, things are moving into Scorpio. We have Mars, Mercury, and the Sun here, this trine over here. Like I said, bringing up some harmony as far as, we're wanting to get to the bottom of things in Scorpio, especially the first 10 degrees. It's the investigator. All of these energies are in that first decan, which is ruled by Pluto, the entire sign ruled by Pluto, but being disposited by Pluto. And of course, Pluto is going forward here now in Capricorn, albeit very slowly, of course. Pluto moves slowly in general. So, this moon in Pisces is definitely wanting us to connect spiritually. And I think the harmonious aspect is wanting us to connect with that deeper aspect of ourselves. Scorpio is about diving into those depths and finding that buried treasure. Scorpio can obviously be a very deep sign, but it can also be a very, icy sign, you know what I'm saying? So it's fixed water. So in many ways, a lot of people like to associate it with ice, and especially here, at least in the northern hemisphere, things are getting colder around this time. Things are starting to frost, if you will. So this trine here, remember the moon and Saturn, they oppose each other, right? The moon rules Cancer, Saturn typically rules Capricorn, so they oppose each other. So now the trine to the sun, it's an interesting one, right? The sun is bringing that vitality, that energy, that spark, that light, really wanting to bring that forward. And a trine to Saturn, like I said, this is a positive thing. I would say, even though Saturn is retrograde here, there's this aspect where we are really asking ourselves, do we? I think really what this is coming down to is like, do we have to really look that deep to see where we can have more harmony in our life, where we can bring more of that positive, uplifting energy? Scorpio already, like I said, it's not the easiest energy to deal with when planets are there, but at least the South Node is not there. So this does give us an opportunity where it's a little bit more unfiltered as far as getting to the bottom of things, investigating, really kind of digging deep and finding like that deeper energy, that deeper core. And with the moon on Saturn, remember, Saturn is the planet of time in Pisces, where time doesn't even exist, and retrograde. So this actually could be just like a nice little thing coming out of nowhere. Anytime that you get like the zero energy, it definitely can be a very pure energy. So this could be, random miracles kind of coming out of nowhere. And mind you, yeah, this is earlier in the day, but this energy will be carried throughout the day too. So that's the thing about this. So, it's going to be a day where nice little things, nice little gifts kind of come out of nowhere today. Maybe things that come out, maybe this is also about, trying to recognize your value. I think one of the interesting things about Scorpio is that it can have all of this power and this even wisdom, especially when it comes from like an emotional aspect, building off Cancer. Now it's the second water sign, so there's a lot of wisdom here with Scorpio, but sometimes Scorpio fails to see their own value, which is why Taurus opposes them. And what Taurus can teach Scorpio and in their relationship is, it's one thing to have like these sort of emotional barriers and these icy walls that Scorpio has a tendency to put up, especially the first 10 degrees. It's definitely more so, this energy where we kind of put up these walls. And since Pluto is the executioner and it rules that first 10 degrees, it's definitely, Scorpios in the first 10 degrees, they will have a tendency to kind of cut things off, very much so, super black and white. Like the moment, it's like they'll be super, super trustworthy, like super, super loyal, but like the moment that you cross them, bam, it's gone, they cut you off. The second 10 degrees is ruled by Neptune. So it's a little bit more, these Scorpios have a tendency to want to escape a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? They may turn a blind eye. These are the Scorpios that are probably most likely, I would say, to potentially get taken advantage of, just because they have a tendency to kind of to turn a blind eye, and they'll want to kind of do like their little bit of escapisms. It's that last decan of Scorpio where it's ruled by the moon, which is interesting. It's sort of like the evolution of the phoenix. And I think that's the thing about Scorpio that we have to remind ourselves now, is that we are going from like, you have the scorpion, you have the eagle, and then you have the dove, and then you have the phoenix, which is like an overall aspect. So Scorpios will go through this throughout their life where they'll go back and forth between the phases. It's not that you just start as a scorpion, you go to the eagle, and then you go and then at the end of your life, you're automatically a dove. Now you go through these cycles. So this is going to be a moment where, this trine, that's sort of activating this energy, activating this 0 point energy, which means that it could bring in a lot of potential, right? It could bring in a lot of infinite potential here, but it's really going to come down to, what stage are you in that? Whenever the sun goes into Scorpio, we all kind of go through that phase. We all kind of embody that sort of triad of going from the scorpion to the eagle to the phoenix and then back. And sometimes you go backwards, too. And the order isn't necessarily like set. That's the funny thing about it. So that's the interesting thing about it. It's not like you just automatically are just going from a scorpion to the eagle to the dove. Now you can go back. What I'm saying? You can go from the dove to the eagle. It's not like set, especially in a day where the ruler of time is at 0 degrees in Pisces retrograde. This is a moment where maybe we become aware of where we are within that triad. And like I said, there are pros and cons, or I guess you would say positive and negatives to every aspect of that evolution too. So it's not that one is better than the other. It's not like the dove is better than the eagle and the eagle's automatically better than the scorpion. There are benefits to all of them. One of the benefits of the scorpion is, first of all, how hardy it is, how it's able to live in the most arid of conditions and the most extreme of conditions. Not only that, but it knows how to protect itself very well. That's a good thing about it. And it has an interesting vantage point. It goes from being low to the ground, and the eagle goes to being high in the sky. And there are advantages to being the eagle, but there are also disadvantages to that. Same thing with the dove, which is somewhere in the middle. If you notice that how you go from the scorpion, which is grounded, and even if you want to take it a step further, you have the water scorpions, right? And then you go to the eagle, which is way up in the sky, way super high, and you have the dove somewhere in the middle. So that's the interesting thing about it. I think what's going to be very key here is the way that the Scorpio season is going to play out is pretty much how you responded and reacted to things during Libra season, especially with that new moon solar eclipse. We are still in between eclipses right now. So the Scorpio season, whether, depending upon where you are in that triad, kind of will determine how this Scorpio season is going to go out. And like I said, Libra season was sort of like a precursor to that. So you can be the eagle, you can be the scorpion, you can be the dove, and then of course you have the phoenix overall. And like I said, you may find yourself kind of switching back and forth between these roles over the course of the next 30 days. And Scorpios do this their entire life too. If you notice, the Scorpios will kind of go through their phases. They may go through their moody phase when it's like the scorpion. They'll go through like their phase where it seems like they're on cloud nine, and that's the eagle. Then they go through their peaceful phase when they're like the dove. You know what I'm saying? And then they're just sort of in that middle ground, almost sort of blending in to, like the population and stuff like that. You probably wouldn't even be able to tell that they were a Scorpio because they're just blending in and shit like that. Whereas in the other extremes, they definitely kind of stand out. So, and that's just like a quick rundown of Scorpio energy. I think that's important to talk about with the sun here at 0 degrees, and it's going to be finishing up there today too. So, you're going to see, of course, that moon is going to make trines today. It's going to make trines over to Mercury. It's going to make a trine over to Mars too. So we have some harmonious energy today with this moon in Pisces that is definitely very dreamy, definitely wanting to see like the positive side of things, definitely wanting to see the beauty in things. But we got to also remember too that Saturn is here, Neptune is here. This Pisces energy lately, it can definitely provide for that magic, if you will, and that peering through the veil, piercing the veil, kind of seeing behind things and seeing like the magic that's all around us. But, the weird thing about it, like I said, is that you have a malefic here, Saturn at the beginning of it. You have Neptune, which I guess it's kind of not considered a malefic, but Neptune, like Poseidon's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, and there's a fair amount of jealousy energy. We kind of forget about that with the relationship between Neptune and Jupiter. It's just how jealous Neptune is of, Jupiter, of his brother. So we forget about that. So the moon in Pisces, it's an interesting energy. People like to say that Scorpio energy can be very jealous, but I will argue and say that Pisces is probably more jealous. They just have Scorpio is just a little bit more outward about it, whereas Pisces is definitely a lot more covert about it. And then they'll use escapism to kind of hide their jealousy, or even hide themselves from their own jealousy. They may not even know that they're being jealous, but it's through their actions and their reactions that reveal that. So, we're going to have that moon in trine to Mercury at 3 degrees. This gives us an opportunity to really communicate the way that we feel and really communicate, our beliefs and stuff like that too. Being that it's at 3 degrees, so that's a very Jupiter-like degree. And then, of course, we're going to see the moon. It's going to trine over to Mars as well. Like I said, trine, the key word for trine is harmony, harmonious, so things are in harmony. But you got to remember too, just because something is in harmony doesn't necessarily mean it's always positive. That's the thing about this. I'm not saying that these aspects today are negative. I really don't think that's the case. I think these actually are very positive aspects, but because of the nature of the day where the moon hits both malefics, it hits Saturn in a amplifying energy, and it hits Mars in a trining energy, right? It definitely is like, it's like the miracles through hard work. It's the what's the word I'm freaking looking for? I guess miracles through hard work is the best way to describe it. It's like the good things, the positive things that come through hard work, the things that come through actually taking some sort of action and not just necessarily waiting around for things to happen. And like I said, the other one is Mercury. So it's hermetic. So it's neither here nor there. It's neither female or male. It's very much so like objective, and especially if we think about the degree too, that, Mercury was 3 degrees, excuse me. Mars, it's going to be 8 degrees. So 8 degrees is a very Saturnian degree about making decisions and stuff too. So there could be a moment that comes up today where we may feel like we are emotionally called to make some sort of decision, maybe based off of a conversation that we have when it comes to our belief and how we feel about things, and our maybe even more faith-based things as well. And then, of course, by the end of the day, you're going to see the moon actually sextile Jupiter, which actually probably brings up the opportunity to actually move forward with whatever comes up today. So it could be a relationship, it could be a job thing, it could be, you may get the opportunity to, maybe you get the opportunity to move to another place too, because this is Jupiter energy. Maybe you get the opportunity to, move to another city or move to another state or something like that. Who knows what's going to come up today? And, whether or not you should take that opportunity or not is really going to come down to, is it something that is in alignment with your vibrational integrity? And I think it's, of course, we have to ask ourselves, what does vibrational integrity mean? What does it look like? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the thing about this. I know I've been saying, like, these are times where we don't necessarily want to make rash decisions or take rash actions that are going to blow up our life or blow up the way that we see things. But at the same time, you have to trust your intuition. You have to trust your gut. And sometimes you make decisions and take actions that kind of go against what the astrology may recommend and stuff. And just because you do that doesn't mean that it's going to falter. Sometimes you go against the grain. You know what I mean? So I think today might be a day where you may feel like you want to kind of go against the grain. And this is more me channeling and stuff, but maybe you feel like you're going against the grain a bit. There's we got to find that balance between knowing when to kind of stay put and wait things out, and knowing when to take action and move things forward, even when it may not seem like the most opportune time to move forward or take some sort of action, or maybe it may just seem like, well, everyone is going this way, so maybe I should go that way too. Well, no, maybe you want to go in that opposite direction. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing. Don't always take my word for things too. Just because the astrology may say a certain thing or I'm interpreting a certain way, trust your gut, trust your intuition. And ultimately, I think today is a day with that moon in Saturn. And you got to remember, think about Saturn as like an authority figure too, right? And it's amplifying this energy at 0 degrees of Pisces, right? So I feel like today is about reestablishing your connection with spirit, reestablishing your connection with the divine, and kind of diving deep and finding your value in there. And you don't necessarily have to listen to me about it or anyone else about it. I think people like me or other spiritual people can be guides, and we can all come together and connect and lift the vibration of the planet. But ultimately, your relationship with God is your relationship with God. I think today is going to be a day that allows us this opportunity to really get some sort of epiphany from God, to sort of like have like that nice little connection and realize that, oh, wait, this is all within me. I don't necessarily need anyone to tell me how my relationship to God should look like. Like, you need to do these things, you need to do these actions, you need to do this, otherwise your relationship with God is null and void. Today is a day that proves that to be false. Like, false, 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 a lie, a lie, a lie. But simultaneously, it's also a day that could potentially ensnare you even deeper into following someone else's vision of God for your life. But no, this is about establishing your vision, your relationship with God, because that is your relationship with God. That's ultimately what today comes down to. And I think, we, get an opportunity to really kind of feel deeper, kind of pierce the veil, look behind the curtain, and then we realize that we are pretty much orchestrating all this on ourselves. We are manifesting this life and stuff. We are co-manifestors, co-creators, if you will. And it's weird too, because there's a day like today where, I feel like there are some days where I feel like I have free will, and then I feel like there are some days where I feel like it's very much so fatal, like fatalistic and stuff, and like things are like fated. And I kind of go back and forth between whether or not we have free will or whether or not we don't. And it's interesting. I think there's an element of both. I think there are moments where it could definitely feel more like free will, and some moments where it could definitely feel like things are fated. I think that going 100% in either direction is probably not the most beneficial place to go to, because if you go 100% and you completely control your own fate, well then that can kind of explain why people take evil to the extremes and shit. You know what I mean? Because they just believe that they can just do whatever without any consequences. Now, if you go the complete fated route, then it just makes you wonder. It's like, well, there's something about that too, where it's like, even if you were fated to create all the beautiful things that you create in life and experience all the beautiful things in life and do the things that you do, it's sort of like there's a little splinter, I feel, within human consciousness that allows for unique creativity to come forth. And I think that that's sort of like just one of those little gifts from God, where it's like, maybe we don't access that part that much. Maybe we don't access the free will part that much. But there's like some weird little mechanism, some weird little algorithm, some weird little equation that we can occasionally come across and activate. And in that moment, God kind of allows us to be a lot more free and kind of play with the energy. But I think we all honestly can only get to that place when we are in vibrational integrity. And like I said, I feel like those moments probably don't come as often as I initially would have thought, but I still think there's an element of it there. And I think today is the day, just looking at the astrology, that may or may not prove that point, but I feel like it may prove that point. And I'm basing that mainly off of the 0 degree conjunction with sun, with the moon, Saturn trining over to the sun at 0 degrees of Scorpio, and how we have, how we get these 0 days like almost back to back. That just seems kind of weird. I know Saturn is moving very, very slowly, but the fact that Saturn is at 0, and then the moon hits 0 Aquarius, and then Mercury is at 0 Scorpio, and then we get another day where 3 planets hit 0. It's pretty interesting to have that. So to get that much injection of pure energy at the same time from 3 different planets twice within a 3 to 4 day period, I think it's nothing short of a miracle. I think it's actually pretty interesting too. And the last thing I'll say before coming out is that we do have Mars, of course, in Scorpio at 8 degrees. It's building up to an opposition with Jupiter. Now, I will talk a little bit more about this in the later videos, probably in tomorrow's astrology forecast, as that opposition becomes closer. But just as a little tidbit, just something for you to think about, the last time that Mars and Scorpio could have opposed Jupiter and Taurus was 1999. It's 24 years ago, because the last time that Jupiter was in Taurus, Mars was in Virgo, and it was retrograding, and they wouldn't have opposed each other. And even back when Mars was in Taurus that year, they could have amplified each other's energy with a conjunction. Jupiter was in Aries. So, like I said, the last time that this opposition could have even happened was 2 cycles ago. Jupiter is a 12, 13-year cycle around the zodiac. So Mars opposed Jupiter, with Mars in Scorpio, and then Jupiter and Taurus. The last time that could have happened was back in 1999. So think about where you were at that point. And it's the turn of this, and we're turning into that, 2000 mark, Y2K and all that stuff was going on, right? So pretty interesting stuff. So we're building up to that energy. And the last time we had that was 24 years ago. So just think about that. Let's go ahead and hop into the cards, shall we? So, and this forecast is a perfect example of me collecting my thoughts on things as we're going throughout it. I think sometimes we want to feel like we are super polished and perfect. And when we're presenting things, that we don't trip over our words, and we aren't like that we have it all together, and I feel like this is a moment right now, just in general in life, where we may trip over our words, we may not have it all together, we may not have like a full idea fleshed out, and we want to look perfect to other people, we want to look polished to other people, and that could just be in general throughout life, we want to feel that way, but especially right now we do. especially with the South Node in Libra, we definitely want to present that we have it all figured out. And you know what? That's the thing too. When I make these videos and stuff like that, I look at the charts for a little bit, then I come on, and then I start going. There are some days where it is seemingly just kind of flowing. There are some days like today where you guys witness me actively working it out. How can I present this to people where it makes sense? You know what I'm saying? So, and I just do one take. I just film it, I just record it, and I go. So, don't be afraid to take some risks and be experimental and get out there. That's kind of the nice thing about the sun in Scorpio here, especially in this first decan, is that it does give us an opportunity to kind of, experiment. You know what I mean? Experiment, get messy, kind of try some different things out, transform. So let's see what we got here for the cards. We do have the Page of Swords in reverse. This is definitely someone who may not necessarily have all the answers, and someone who is definitely quick-witted, but maybe just slightly missing the mark too. And I think that's what this comes down to. Maybe we feel like we're just slightly missing the mark here, slightly missing the mark there. Someone who is quick-witted, you know what I'm saying? We also have that followed by, oh, wow, okay, we got the Nine of Cups. We have the Nine of Cups too. I think that really what this comes down to is that we want to have like a plan, and maybe we feel like the world wants us to have a plan, but this is about, having our own cup filled and then knowing our value from that place too, right? This is a moment here where the Page of Swords, like I said, it could maybe jump the gun with getting information. It very much so once it's learning how to sword fight, you know what I'm saying, maybe overestimating his abilities too, but then his Nine of Cups is kind of coming in and reminding him that having that emotional integrity, right, realizing that you have everything that you need already, right? This person knows his worth, that even if we may lose that battle, we haven't lost the war. I think today is one of those days, bottom of the deck, we'll just go ahead and look. Yeah, we have the Five of Cups in reverse. This is not a time to be crying over spilled milk. It's not a time to be crying over some of the L's maybe we have taken. You know what I'm saying? So now, whether these are small L's or really big L's, is another story. But especially the small L's that we take on a day-to-day basis, no sense in crying over that spilled milk. And this Page of Swords in reverse is definitely going to want to have us formulate our opinions on this, maybe even put our opinions out there, but it may be very much so premature, So I think, like I said, today definitely offers these opportunities and these harmonious aspects of, really getting in touch with our divine self in a very, potent, pure, and positive way. You know what I'm saying? And depending upon that information that comes through, whether or not we take some sort of action today, I think today is going to be more so the day to kind of ponder on things, to kind of allow things to go through the proper channels. That doesn't mean that you don't make a decision on doing something or on taking some sort of action. Whether or not you take it today, I think we honestly should wait until this eclipse happens. This full moon eclipse is going to be happening, not in Aries, mind you, Taurus. So, I would recommend, and of course you don't have to take my word for it, it's like to probably wait until after the eclipse to make your decision and stuff, just because the energy in between eclipses is very sensitive, it is very strong, and it is very potent. But with the daylight today, Page of Swords in reverse, Nine of Cups upright, but Five of Cups in reverse. This is a day not to cry over spilled milk. You know what I'm saying? Not to cry over, the losses, the L's that we might have taken, or maybe even feel like you've been lied to with that Page of Swords in reverse. You know what I'm saying? And since it's a page, these are like petty little lies. These are like the lies that your kids tell and stuff like that. Now, whether or not you let these lies build up and they become like a little liar, that's a whole other thing. But these are like those small little petty lies. It's not like a Knight of Swords in reverse or a King of Swords in reverse. These are the small little things, right? So, just, have some discernment moving through this energy, and just realize that even if some cups fall over, that you still have a few standing. And you might well, I have less than half of what I started with. I'm like, well, you still have something. And that something is probably everything to another person. So I think that's something to be grateful for. That is going to do it for your astrology forecast today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful day. I will see you guys on Hump Days Astrology Forecast. Peace.